Okay, this worksheet is the extra practice angles of triangles to go with 5-1 reveal geometry, angles of triangles. So looking at number 1, we've got vertical angles. And that lets us know that 2 and 3 are going to be 45 degrees since base angles are congruent. Then the triangle must be isosceles. And in the other triangle then we have a 90 plus a 23. And we find out that that must be 67 degrees. And then with the first triangle, the two congruent base angles are complementary, so that makes 45 degrees each. Okay, let's look at number 2. Number 2, we have a right angle at B. Also, we have a linear pair with the 70, so we know that angle is going to be 110 degrees. Working with the right-hand triangle, 110 and 27 subtracted from 180 gives 43 degrees for angle 2. And since there's a complementary pair at B, 47 and 43 are the angle measures. And in the left-hand triangle, 70 and 47 subtracted from 180 gives 63. Looking at number 3, we've got some vertical angles. 1 is going to be congruent to 3. But we can find out what angle 2 is by adding up the two angles they give us and find out it's 70 degrees. And by linear pairs, then angle 1 and angle 3 must be 110 degrees. So we got those. Looking at number 4, if I deal with the right-hand triangle, I've got a 90 and a 43. And if I subtract that from 180, we get 47 degrees for angle 1. Angle 1 is a linear pair with angle 2. So we subtract 147 from 180, and we get 133 for the measure of angle 2. And let's see what else we got. We're looking for angle 3 now. We also could use the exterior angle theorem with that. The 133 is the same thing as the 43 plus the 90, so that would have been another way to do that. Looking at W, we get a linear pair, and that gives us the other 89-degree angle. For number 5, 1 and 3 are congruent because they're vertical angles. We can find out angle 1 using triangle sums. So angle 1 is going to be 24 degrees, which means angle 3 is going to be 24 degrees. And 24 and 58 subtracted from 180 then is going to give us the measure of angle 2. Looking at number 6, we have a bunch of equilateral triangles. Equilateral triangles have 3 angles that have to be 180 that are congruent, so they're all 60 degrees apiece. And then at each one of those inside vertices, we've got a 60 and a 60 on either side with the numbered angle in the middle. Since they all have to add up to 180 degrees, we can see that each one of those numbered angles also has to be 60 degrees. So this is a tile of all equilateral triangles. Let's move on to the next page now. For these, this is an exterior angle theorem problem. So the exterior angle is going to be equal to the sum of the two remote interior angles. So we're going to solve for x, and then we have to find the measure of FGH. So x is 47, FGH is 3 times 47, which gives us 141 degrees. Number 8 is also an exterior angle theorem. The DCA angle is going to be equal to the sum of the angle of A and the measure of the angle at B. So we're going to set the algebra up and combine like terms. Also, we could note that triangle ACB is isosceles since it's got congruent base angles. 5x minus 10 is equal to 4x plus 4, because x is equal to 14. It wants us to find the measure of ACB. So we have to do 2 times 14 plus 2, and we get 30. So we have two 30-degree angles subtracted from 180, leaves us with measure ACB is equal to 120 degrees. Looking at number 9, we have a right angle, and the other two angles then are going to be complementary angles, because 180 take away 90 leaves us with 90 degrees for the remaining two angles. So 2x plus x makes 90 degrees. 3x is equal to 90. X is going to be 30, and the angle is going to be 60 and 30 then. Angle PLK now is a linear pair with the 60-degree angle, so that gives us 120 degrees for PLK. With this roof truss problem, we have another exterior angle problem given to us. The measure of angle 1 is equal to the measure of angle 2 plus the measure of angle 3. So measure of angle 1 is 6x. Measure of angle 2 is 3x minus 2. So 6x is going to be equal to 3x minus 2 plus 4x minus 22. We're going to substitute in and combine like terms and then solve for x. And then once we find out what x is, the measure of angle 1, which is what they're asking for, is going to be 6 times x. So x is 24. 6 times x is going to be 144. So the measure of angle 1 is 144 degrees. And this problem at the bottom, it was a little bit tricky for the second part of it. For the first part, to find angle 1, we have 90-degree angles there at where the minor and the major diagonals cross each other. So we have a 90 and a 27, that's 117. And then we're going to end up subtracting that from 180, and that'll give us the measure of angle 1. For the upper triangle, though, we've got that 90-degree angle in the center. And the problem is telling us also that the measure of angle 1 is equal to 4x minus 21. So if 4x minus 21 also is equal to 63, we can use that to solve for x. And we find that the measure of angle 2 is 42, and the measure of angle 3 then is 48 degrees. For example 3, basically we want to solve the diagram with what we're given. So with a 60 or a 30, we've got 30, 60, 90 triangles. The 30 and the 60 give us a complementary pair, and we can jump all the angle measures around and then fill in the blanks. It's much easier to solve the diagram than it is to go number by number. Here's a little bit more complicated diagram. Let's see where we can start. We're looking for some kind of a right triangle where we can do the triangle sums. The bottom right triangle there, we have a 90 plus a 55 subtracted from 180 gives us 35 degrees for angle 3. Using the large triangle, we have a 90 plus a 55 subtracted from 180 is going to give us 35 degrees for the measure at J. Using triangle sums, 35 and 105 gives us 140, which means the angle 1 is going to be 40 degrees. And altogether, those angles at that intersection all need to add up to 180. They add up to 108 if I subtract that, or they add up to 98. So if I subtract that from 180, we get 82 degrees. So angle 4, it must be 82 degrees. That leaves us trying to figure out what angle 2 is. So we've got this right triangle that we could use in the center. But if we use the top, we've got supplementary or linear pair with 105 is 75, and 75 and 82 subtracted from 180 gives us 23 degrees for the measure of angle 2. So a lot of times on these, the order kind of depends on what you happen to see first. And that's it for those.